What you're about to see is one of the biggest moments in motorsports history. It might not look like much now, but this is real footage of the first ever backflip on a motorbike. After Jose Yanez whipped that bike over his head, the world of motorsports was never the same again. This was the beginning of a journey that would lead a generation of petrol heads to become obsessed with backflipping jet skis, snowmobiles, and monster trucks. If it's got an engine, chances are some dude has already flipped it. But of all the wild action sports out there, none have pushed the boundaries of the backy further than freestyle motocross. Carey Hart was the first to step up and throw down a backflip in competition. And although it wasn't exactly what you would call a clean landing, he achieved what many believed to be impossible by just having the balls to attempt a backflip on a bike that size. The dude opened a gate to another dimension of freestyle motocross. Then along came Travis Pastrana, who sent an outrageous double backflip at the 2006 X Games, taking home a massive score of 98.6, the highest ever awarded in the best trick category. That seemed absolutely outrageous until Josh Sheehan pushed it even further and went wheels down on a triple a decade later, launching himself off the biggest ramp motocross fans had ever seen. After that, the race for the baddest backflip died out for years. No one dared attempt the triple again. It seemed that no one on the planet had the skill or the nerve to try a trick that ran an alarmingly high chance of instant death. That all changed at the 2022 Nitro World Games when Jayden Archer, known as Jayo, shocked us all by doing two massive triples that were seen for the first time in FMX competition. But just as we thought the story of the triple backy had been written, a horrific accident shocked action sports fans. Reports began to emerge in February 2024 that 28-year-old Jayo had suffered a fatal accident while practicing his signature trick. The death of Jayo sent shockwaves through the FMX world. From Travis Pastrana to Dana White, the internet was flooded with tributes to this guy. He was one of the few people pushing the cutting edge of freestyle motorsports right now, not for fame or fortune, but just for the sheer thrill of it. As the dust began to settle, many of us were left asking the same disturbing question: did our obsession with backflips just kill another motocross rider? Jayo, born December 18th, 1995 in Sydney, Australia, quickly became consumed by the world of motocross. At the age of 4, he was already revving up his first bike, and by 6 years old, he was entering his first competitions, even snagging a bronze at the Australian Championships. The Aussie motocross scene was small, but it was a tight community, and Jayo spent his childhood surrounded by some of the country's greatest riders. Cam Sinclair, a man who would soon become Australia's most accomplished FMX athlete, even lived with the Archer family for 3 years and passed on the art of freestyle motocross. By the age of 12, Jayo was flipping his bike into a foam pit, and at 15 years old, he became the youngest person on record to backflip a bike off a 75-foot ramp. Despite a short debut at the Motocross Nationals, he ditched his racing career and joined NitroCircus, spending the next few years touring Europe, America, and China. But after returning home, Jayo experienced the worst accident of his career. Unknown to him, the ramp had been moved midway through the show, leaving him slamming hard on the flat ground. The accident left him with a broken spine, a crushed voice box, and a broken ankle. After 6 long months in a neck brace, Jayo was back on his bike, and by late 2018, he had set his sights on the most dangerous challenge of his life, landing the triple backflip. Before we continue with the video and further explanation about the loss of this talented daredevil, I want to ask for your help. I'm a small channel and trying to reach 1,000 subs, so I'd really appreciate it if you would subscribe and help me out. Okay, let's proceed. Now, for anyone out there who doesn't understand how freaking nuts this is, don't underestimate how dangerous flipping bikes can be. Even a single backy can be fatal, which we were grimly reminded of in 2009 when Jeremy Lusk died attempting an Indian air backflip. Or how about Cam Sinclair's horrific accident? Jayo's old mentor was left in a week-long coma, fighting for his life after attempting a double flip that same year. But Jayo knew the risks better than anyone. He'd already stacked up his own share of gnarly injuries. By this point, this guy certainly wasn't short on psych, but Jayo still had a problem. He didn't have anywhere to practice practice such a deadly trick? Short on options, he decided to email motocross legend Travis Pastrana. I just asked him if I could go over to Pastrana land and, kind of use his facilities because we didn't have anything like that in Australia. At the time, amazingly, Travis responded, and 3 months later, Jayo was in Pastrana land. A monster ramp over 8 meters high was set up over an airbag, and by the second day, Jayo was already pulling around triples. For 2 weeks, he threw himself off that savage ramp, launching himself 100 feet in the air and pulling so much G-force that he bent 15 sets of handlebars. But the work had paid off. After returning home at the end of 2019, Jayo was in the form of his life. A few weeks later, he entered the AUSX Open on a borrowed bike and proceeded to do this on a trash bike that he had never ridden and on a ramp he had never jumped. Jayo went and landed his first double backflip to dirt, a trick that would send him to the top of the podium. It was clear Jayo was desperate for a crack at the triple, but poor conditions and global lockdowns meant progress stalled over the next few years. It wasn't all bad news though. His hard work had started to gain attention and earned him an invite to the 2021 X Games. Unfortunately, a dislocated shoulder in practice the day before led to a less than ideal first run. He went for a double backflip again, but this time he wasn't able to hold the rotation and took a hard slam, abruptly ending his competition. Just a few months later, Jayo was plagued with yet another injury, this time shattering his femur while practicing the triple. Now, if you ask any medical professional what's the worst bone to break, chances are they'll tell you it's this one. The femur is the biggest bone in the body, so breaking it takes a ridiculous amount of force, not to mention it's insanely painful. But Jayo didn't seem too bothered, and amazingly, just 3 months later, he was back at it. And with the NitroCircus World Games just around the corner, Jayo knew that this was the best opportunity to debut his triple flip. The moment he'd been waiting for finally arrived. During the Nitro World Games at Suncorp Stadium in Brisbane, he was noticeably tense, and understandably so. As the crowd nervously watched him take a few pacing runs, Jayo proceeded to launch himself off the enormous ramp. He was catapulted into the air, the equivalent height of an 8-story building, and for a heart-stopping second, he was a blur of orange and blue. At the last moment, he whipped around the final rotation, sticking the first triple backflip in competition history. The stadium exploded, reveling in the history they had just witnessed.
3 years to get those 3 flips around.
Unbelievably, immediately after Jayo's run, Harry Bink also went wheels down on a triple. He came down with a slightly cleaner landing and clinched the gold medal, but he didn't care. He was living the biggest moment of his life, one that would leave a permanent mark on the history of FMX. By the start of 2023, this once unknown bike mechanic had become one of the most exciting prospects in freestyle motocross. He made an appearance at the 2023 X Games and achieved a world first with his no-hand double backflip off the next generation ramp, earning him the bronze medal and redemption for his 2021 debut. For the remainder of the year, Jayo enjoyed the spoils of his rising fame, taking part in interviews and promotional gigs across Australia, the USA, and the Middle East. At a NitroCircus live show in June, he even treated some lucky fans to another triple backflip. He was also becoming increasingly vocal about electric bikes, teasing us with the potential for an even more terrifying idea, the quad flip. But on the afternoon of February 21st, 2024, NitroCircus broke news that sent shockwaves through the FMX world. Reports began to emerge that Jayo had died practicing the triple near his home in Melbourne. It was a devastating development made even more tragic by this post he shared on social media less than 2 weeks prior. Here for a good time, not for a long time, tributes began to pour in from fellow riders, fans, and of course his devastated fiancée. Friends were quick to set up a fund for his family, which was flooded with donations, including a $155,000 contribution from NitroCircus. Jayo's story is a cruel and tragic reminder of the dice all extreme athletes roll every time they seek to push the boundaries of what's possible. While it may have a tragic ending, Jayo's life story was an inspirational tale of boldness and willpower. Fearless spirits like Jayo's are a rare breed, and it's impossible to have anything but the utmost admiration for those who pursue life to the fullest. If the devastating story of this brave man reached you, please give this video a like. Thank you for showing your support by sharing this video. What do you think about this story? Let me know in the comments below.